99X. It's the Morning X, Barnes and Leslie with our new store hours for the fall. We're open now 7 to 10. I don't know how this happened, Fram, that we're doing more work.
I don't remember that being part of the deal, but I'm going along with it.
And for the listeners...
Because I love 99X.
Yeah, more work for us and less commercials for you, which is all awesome. We have fewer commercial breaks. The heavens have answered, Leslie. Fewer commercial breaks on the Morning X.
Thank you.
I want to get into a topic about this band right here. So that band, of course, is Kings of Leon. And I will say one of my favorites over the last whatever years they've been around. I liked them very early on. It's weird that America didn't. Did you, Leslie, like when they first came out, were you into them?
Yeah, loved it because we were at 99X, California Dreamin' came out. We were playing songs like Molly's Chambers. And then when I moved to New York, 2008, like Sex on Fire, Use Somebody. I just love Caleb's voice.
Yeah, and strangely enough, the UK loved them. I mean, they swallowed them whole. I don't know why, because if you look at the bands that really have success over there, they don't really fit in that, in my opinion. But it'd be fun to have an expert on. And his name is Chris Black, and he writes for GQ. I know he does a bunch of other things. He had a whole article on this. I thought it'd be fun to have you on, Chris. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, hey guys, thank you for having me. I, grew up listening to you guys in Atlanta, as all the way, middle school, high school.
You did?
So, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I listen to you guys every morning. I've been to several big day outs. I would tune into the Retroplex so I could hear Morrissey, you know what I mean, when I was in like 7th grade. So this is big for me.
I had no idea that you're from Atlanta?
Born and raised, yeah. I left when I was probably like 24, 25, so it's been a while now. But yeah, I come back all the time. My parents are still there.
What inspired you to write an article about Kings of Leon in GQ?
It's funny. So I have a GQ column every week called Pulling Weeds, and they kind of let me do whatever I want, which is a blessing. But I had heard some rumblings online that Kings of Leon were having a little bit of like a resurgence among a certain crowd. And it actually stemmed from Ezra Koenig from Vampire Weekend has a show called Time Crisis on Apple Music. And him and his co-hosts, he was playing Kings of Leon songs. And these guys who were my age, like 40, early 40s, were like, I've never heard this before. Like
really?
They had literally,
Really?
Yeah, and I know them, and I was like, I know they're not putting on for the microphone. Like, this is real,
right?
And I had always been I was there for Molly's Chambers and California Dreamin'. Like, I liked all that stuff, and I think that I'm Southern, so I like understood it and like liked it. But I think that they were sort of, and the kind of thesis of the story I wrote is like, they were kind of just like, at one point, just not cool anymore. It was like not cool to like them. It wasn't like they weren't part of the conversation. And I think we've done a lot of kind of, we sort of look back and pull bands out from that era and decide that they're cool again.
How does that happen? How do you light switch cool?
I think it has to do with kind of the cycles of life and trends in general. And, people my age that grew up with Kings of Leon, or there are peers. Now we're in positions of power, quote unquote. We can dictate what's going on. We're talking about it on our podcasts or in GQ or whatever. And I think that might introduce it to a younger audience.
What do you think actually happened? Because after all that success with Use Somebody, Sex on Fire, and then
Grammy.
Yeah. And then they just sort of disappeared. I mean, I knew where they were all along because they were putting music out that I thought was great. But do you think it also had to do with the changing landscape of alternative radio?
Of course. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think in general, guitar music died, and
yes, exactly.
It wasn't prominent anymore. It wasn't popular anymore. And I think they also suffered from that weird thing that happens where you get too big, and your original audience is turned off by your new audience.
Right. Isn't that weird?
It's you can't really plan for that. I think that like a song like Sex on Fire or Use Somebody, those feel really like part of their catalog. Like it's a clear line to me. Like the same band who wrote Molly's Chambers wrote that, and that's very clear to me. But it's just big, a hit is a hit, and you can't control it once it's out.
The thing about Kings of Leon that drew me in as a music fan and just as, appreciating, well, the things that they're talking about, sure. I mean, it's observations around their world, but the pain in his voice and the melody combined
Absolutely.
Was the magic for me. You know what I mean? Like just in so many of his songs. Like other night I was playing Toad in the Hole on my back patio, which is a British pub game where you throw a coin in the circle. and I picked this up a month ago. I'm a pro already. And I had on Kings of Leon because of their UK connection and just had it cranked up, and just the pain in all the songs and the melodies they come up with are so great. That's why I don't understand why the culture, the music culture, can just turn their back on them just like that.
I mean, look, the records after that weren't as good. Let's just be honest.
I really.
Look, I believe you, and a lot of people did. I mean, they were popular. They did really well, but I think it's really tough to follow up a success of that magnitude. Like, I just think it's almost impossible.
Well, there are problems they had also at the same time, right, Leslie?
Yes.
I mean, they have not acknowledged a lot of problems.
Absolutely. But, they're back. I mean, obviously they're out there and they're still touring. I love in your article, though, you were talking about Ezra, from Vampire Weekend, saying the same things Barnes just said about sort of the authenticity of the band and the way it was captured in his vocals. I think that had a lot to do with it. But what do you think about, because you do bring this up, the nostalgia that's happening right now? Because if you look at all these alternative bands that are touring now, they're having the biggest success of their careers.
I mean, yeah. I saw Bush. Friend to see Bush the other night, and I was like, "What, Bush?"
I know.
I have a lot of theories on this because I'm also a pretty big T-shirt collector and bands specifically. And the amount of money that I'm forced to pay for something that feels very niche to me, like the fact that there's multiple people trying to pay $300 for a 10,000 Maniacs t-shirt kind of blows my mind.
Right.
But I think it has to do with age and the fact that, again, the people that grew up with this have money and can go buy the tickets and go to the shows and buy the merch. And I think it's it makes us feel good because it takes us back to our kind of heyday. And it also is affordable and fun. And it's something that is, I think a lot of people stop doing at a certain age, and I think
makes a lot of sense.
And I think that's what it is. That's what I've thought about this a lot.
I do feel like this nostalgia thing is real. Like, I go to shows and I still am the person that buys merch because I'm a fan. I don't want to lose that being a real fan of an artist.
So where do they go from here? I mean, do they just sink, or will there be a resurgence, you think, of Kings of Leon?
I think they've written enough great songs where they could write more. You know what I mean? I don't think
I feel that way.
I don't think the tank is empty. I mean, I feel that about a lot of artists. I think that they weren't a one-hit wonder. They have, 10 to 12 amazing songs in that catalog that are very, very good on many levels. And I think if you have that in your background, you could dig deep and do it again. I have faith for a lot of artists that I love.
That's interesting. You're leaning on faith with these guys. Like you're it's not a definitive, oh yeah, are they sober?
They should be. I don't know if they are.
Yeah,
I say that as a sober person myself. But I think that I think what happens with a band like this in particular is life slows down, obviously, in a tremendous way. You're rich, you're married, you have kids.
Exactly.
It's the equation is very different. And getting kind of the fire under your ass, for lack of a better term, is hard. The motivation is different,
All right. Well, I don't know who can't crank up "Use Somebody" when it comes on the radio. Whoever that person is, I don't want to be friends with them.
I stand with you. I stand with you on that.
I do too.
I stand with you on
Well,
that.
thank you for that. It's a cool story. We need to all follow you. I'm so glad to hear that you were a product of the 99X era in Atlanta.
Yes.
Chris Black, where can people follow you? What's your social of choice?
Well, I do a podcast with my co-host Jason Stewart, How Long Gone. You can get that anywhere you listen to podcasts. We talk to a lot of musicians. But yeah, Instagram is @DoneToDeathProjects. Twitter is @DoneToDeath. And GQ Pulling Weeds every Thursday.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you guys. It was a pleasure, honestly.